Hang on. There we are. Hello, everyone. We are now live. And I've got tonight the man with a voice. And that is Jim. Yeah. And he's just so enthusiastic and passionate about what he talks about. And he's such an eclectic reader. He reads a little bit of everything. But yeah, I know where his passions lie, kind of mystery, kind of westerns. And one thing I love about his channel, he's got the most awesome collection of books. And he does a lot of book hauls, and I just open my eyes and yeah. And a lot of them look like they belong in Gob August. They probably do. But yeah, it's an honor to have you on my show, Jim, from Mystery and Mayhem, and welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
How was your day today? How are you doing at the moment?
It was good. I mean, yeah, we haven't been doing much this morning. We slept in and just I've been reading a little bit for Occult Detective October. So just enjoying the day. We've got kind of a long weekend. Like my wife's off work for 4 days, so we're just going to enjoy the next 4 days. We're going to my son's for Canadian Thanksgiving on Monday, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's great. No, we're just having a very lazy Saturday.
Yeah,
and I'm actually a big rugby fan. So Saturdays I normally watch rugby. I think after this I might watch a couple of my local teams play. They're playing overseas at the moment in Europe. But yeah, that's my big hobby besides this. Otherwise, yeah, today we've just been cleaning, washing up, washing clothes, all that kind of thing.
All the stuff that needs to be done.
Yeah, you've got a lot to be done. But yeah, tell us about your background to BookTube, reading, horror.
Well, I've only been on BookTube. I started September 15th last year, so just a little over a year now, and I'm still trying to figure it out. BookTube, like I know there's things I should be doing. I should be being more consistent with my schedule and with my thumbnails and things like that. But it's something you just have to kind of, I think, play by ear a lot of the times too. And I just when the feeling comes over me, I say, okay, I've got a book haul. I'm going to talk about these. I don't really plan things out too much, but I'm enjoying it, and I enjoy these kind of interactions. I mean, these are great, and I've made a few friends since I've been on here, and that's a great thing, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
but the initial focus of the channel when I started was to just do mystery, because I didn't see a lot of people doing, mystery novels or mystery stories, and that was going to be my initial focus. And so I think I probably have to get back to that, because I get distracted by all these reading events and other things. So yeah, I will eventually get back to focusing on mystery and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think, do you pay much attention to the algorithm, all that sort of stuff?
Not really.
People talk about analyzing your channel, right? Your homepage. And
I know Randy from the Literate Texan does that, and a couple other guys, probably Greg, they watch all that stuff, but I don't pay much attention to that. I always enjoy when I get a new subscriber, and I stay on top of my comments. That's pretty much it. I love when people comment, because, and if you've taken the time to look at my video and comment on my video, I'm going to give you that little heart icon, and I'm going to reply to you, because you've taken the time and the effort to do that for me. So that's the least I can do. And I try to stay on top of them.
Yeah. And that's what builds community, really. But I actually agree with you. The most important thing about it is building your subscribers, looking after yours.
Yeah. I think I lost you there.
Yeah, it's me. I think. Hopefully, there I am. Yeah. I think it's every time I come closer to the screen, it seems to.
Oh.
Yeah. But we're in a third world country, South Africa. So the internet is not the best, even though we plugged it in.
Ours isn't the greatest either. I mean, ideally, we should have a hard hardwire it to the Wi-Fi, that would work a lot better. But yeah, book two, it's all about engaging people. Just like initially, I just wanted to talk to people with the same interests that I had. Like I'm excited about books and about reading, and I wanted to talk to other like-minded people about that, and that's what it was all about.
Yeah. Okay, and one thing I wanted to ask you, and I know your taste in books is kind of broad. I know you enjoy horror. I know you enjoy horror, but you enjoy a lot of different things, like mystery, like westerns.
Yeah.
But tell me about your, the first book that got you into horror, and just a little bit about the history of your reading of horror.
Well, it's horror. I prefer like older traditional horror. Like there's not a lot of new horror books that I read, but I enjoy horror in my other genres. Like I like a horror element in my fantasy reading or my mystery reading. Like I'm reading this Sherlock Holmes story, and it's actually got some body horror in it. Like I just read a chapter this morning where it's like not to get into the whole premise of the thing, but Watson breaks into this house and there's these two bodies on tables, and the one guy has the top of his skull cut off, but he's still alive because there's alien fungus that is in him, keeping him alive, and the whole story is kind of like that. It's a Lovecraftian thing, so I like those kind of elements in my stories. Like Robert E. Howard Conan's stories. He created Sword and Sorcery because he had to do historical, and he brought in this supernatural element, and he kind of created sword and sorcery, this horrific element, to create this new genre. So I love that kind of stuff, and of course the traditional ghost stories and Frankenstein and Dracula. Like I'm a pulp reader. Like you called me eclectic, but I still think of myself just as like I read pulp. That's me. Like I'm not going to say, even though I do read a lot of different genres, but it's very pulpy. That's what I love. That's my go-to. But I remember reading.
And I know you mentioned that you enjoy Stephen King, but
love Stephen King.
Yeah. We're going to go there a little bit later. Let's just see if we got some comments here. Say hello to a few people. Okay, we're going to start with my biggest fan. That's my wife.
Hi, Anita. What are you doing?
Yeah. And then we got Max. You all right, Max?
Hi,
man. Everyone, hope you're all doing well. And I'm going to my friends, but I wanted to jump on here. I'm leaving. Be well and much love. Thanks, Matt.
You too. Thank you.
Always comes into my live streams. Hope you have fun. Okay, let's go back. I mean, we actually talked about Stephen King. And maybe the books that stand out for you, your favorite Stephen King books that.
Yeah.
Let's just go there a little bit. So what are some of your favorite books by Stephen King?
By Stephen King? Well, I love 11/22/63. And I love The Green Mile. Like my favorites of his aren't necessarily the horror ones, but I do love them too. Like the very first Stephen King book I read was The Stand. And I read that in like high school, like grade 10, and it really affected me. And I've been a lifelong reader of him since then, But yeah.
And I have to say The Stand. So I've got a very battered copy here. I've had this for the longest possible time, since I think I was 12 or 13. So you can see it's taped up.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, this is what do you call it? The complete and uncut edition. And this is my favorite Stephen King. But they are. Yeah.
One of my favorites too. Now, is that the one that was expanded? Like the initial one I read was the original one, and then I have an expanded version, which I haven't got around to reading yet. But like it's much thicker. I should show you the one. Hold on. It's right here.
Yeah.
This is the box set. This is the one I read in high school. Was this copy?
Ooh, I love that copy.
Yeah, it's an awesome cover. But this is like a much shorter version than the one that's out there now. Like there's a much, like the one you showed looked much thicker than this. And I think there was a lot of other stuff that he added to it that wasn't in this initial copy.
Yeah. I've got 2 copies of The Stand. I've got another one here, but it's going to be quite a mission to get down.
Yeah.
I think it's also the small one as well.
Okay.
Yeah, he added all the details. I prefer the longer version, obviously.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah, but
that was going to be my next question. Which one you preferred? If it was like worth putting in all the extra stuff.
For me, it's worth it. Yeah. I like the characterization. I know people say that King's work is too long, and they get bored, with the endless descriptions and the characters. No, I think that's what he's strong at.
That's his strength. I mean, definitely. I mean, all the little details and the little nitpicking and the characterizations and all that stuff. That's his strength. That's what keeps you reading him. I think that's what I love about his work.
Yeah, and I want to ask you. Have you got a least favorite King novel?
I read The Dark Half and Rose Matter. It's not that they were bad. I mean, if I had to pick one that I didn't like as much, it would probably be, those 2. But again, I haven't read every one of his either. There's a lot of his I haven't read, but there's I like his short stories. That again, talking about his strengths, I think Stephen King's strength is in his short stories that he writes, and I love them. And I have a lot of those anthologies of his. And I think those are great.
Have you ever heard of this novella collection, Full Dark, No Stars?
Yeah, my wife just read that one. We got it in hardcover. I haven't read it yet, but she read it and she loved it.
Yeah, I think this is one of these more underrated collections.
Really?
I don't hear it spoken enough of. I know that one of the stories, I think it's I can't remember the name of the story now. Hang on. No, I can't remember, but the one was made into a movie.
Oh.
And thing about this collection is that it's very dark. This is a very dark collection. So every story is kind of almost, I don't know if nihilistic is the right word, but there's kind of all 4 of these tales are bleak. And that's definitely one that should be spoken more of. I also love Skeleton Crew. I think Skeleton Crew is possibly my favorite.
Yeah.
I didn't pull that out. It's somewhere, I don't know where it is.
I don't know what he did in another life to like everything he does just turns to gold, honestly. Even short stories, they'll make a movie out of it, and he's still going strong after how many years now?
Yeah.
I mean, when was Carrie released? In the 70s?
72 or 73, I think.
Yeah.
And you know what his first short story was? Or novella was? Because before Carrie, he wrote The Long Walk when he was a student at university.
Oh.
And that was only released later on as one of the Buffman books.
Okay.
So that was actually his first book, The Long Walk, which is one of his most popular. And he wrote that as a student. That's how talented he is. He's just a storyteller.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what he is. He's just a guy sitting around a campfire telling stories is what he is. You know. I read Joyland was an interesting book. It was one of the hard case crime books. And I kind of read that and I liked it. Yeah. And it seemed like an early effort to me. It seemed like he took one of his early stories and he kind of released it. Yeah. I've got them too. The Colorado Kid I wasn't a real fan of.
Yeah. It almost had like a ending
Yeah, like a non-ending.
Yeah, an unsolved mystery, basically.
Yeah, and that was his goal. I think was to write like not everything in life doesn't have a wrap up.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm going to write about real life, and it's not going to have an ending because that's what life is like. And it's a novel, it's a story. It kind of needs a conclusion, and
it's about the process. It's about the process. So life is more than the end. It's about the journey. And I didn't mind the book. I actually quite enjoyed it. But it's not one of my favorite because I did want to know who this person was. I wanted to know a little bit about this body.
Yeah, me too. And it was very unsatisfying that you didn't learn any of this stuff in the book. But it was an interesting experiment, and that's what he does. I mean, you gotta throw things against the wall and see what sticks.
Exactly. And a lot of people love it. So the thing about King is that everyone reacts to him differently. Everyone has their favorites. Look, I've read six. I actually counted. I've read 62.
Oh boy.
So that includes his novels, his collections, and I think I've read every collection of his now. His novels, collections, and also 2 non-fiction, and one of them doesn't get spoken about as well. And that is,
I know the one.
You know the one I'm going to mention.
On writing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is fantastic. It's so entertaining, even if you're not an author. And we're going to come down to writing a little bit later when we talk about garbology, because you wrote a very, very scary story. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
A lot of atmosphere, kind of a haunting story.
Thank you. Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. Something soldier. What was it?
The Decaying Century.
Decaying Century. Sorry. Yeah. But we're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
But people missing out if they don't read this, even if you're not.
I absolutely love that book. My mom actually bought that book for me like years ago when I said, "Oh, I'm going to be a writer." I said to her, and she bought me that. She bought me the hardcover, first printing of the hardcover. I have it here somewhere, but I absolutely love that book. That's such a good book, And it's, as you said, it's very underrated, and it needs to be talked about more. That book. And it's more of a memoir, really.
It is.
But it gives some pretty solid advice too to an aspiring writer.
Yeah. And it just gives insights into King's life.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't get otherwise. So you learn more about him as a human being.
Yeah.
And about his compassion.
He's very divisive. People either love him or they hate him. And I don't really understand the hate, because he's just a storyteller. He's just a guy who's telling stories, and he tells good stories, and people like to read his stuff. So, it's almost like he's so popular that people don't like that. Like they don't like to see people be successful.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. I mean, right from the beginning, he was lost. He was put into the sort of, he'd hang out with other writers that are more literary, sort of kind of. He'd just be put as a horror author. He doesn't know how to write. He just writes his tales.
Literary writers are fine, but people don't read them.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't. Yeah.
No, I mean, I try to, and I have. I've read some Charles Dickens, and I'm trying to read Vanity Fair right now, but it's not grabbing me. I'd much rather read a good old Fawcett Gold Medal, suspense novel.
Yeah.
Or a Sherlock Holmes book. And that's been a lifelong love of mine, is collecting Sherlock Holmes. So I'd much rather, those are always my go-to, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And one thing we spoke about is talking about classic horror.
Yes.
Before we go to classic horror, let me just see if we got any other people.
Okay.
This is part of the joy of actually hosting. Oh,
yeah.
We got a lot of.
No, good.
No, we got a couple. We got Michael Württemberg.
Hey, Michael.
Hello, Michael. Yeah, he's got a great channel. He's also an author.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
yeah,
follow him, and I haven't watched any of his videos for a while, and that's my bad. I got to get back into watching his stuff. I
yeah,
actually love his videos. How you
yeah.
doing, Michael?
He's actually got a book out that I'm going to read. It's planned for my November.
Yeah,
Oh, and now he's going to have to remind me of what the book's called. Um, yeah, it sounds very, very interesting and out there. But Michael will tell us. I'll wait for him now.
yeah. I meant to get on and buy one of his books actually, and I forget which one it was. And
Oh,
yeah.
the Edifice Complex. Edifice Complex. Yeah,
Oh, right.
and it's got a very, very intriguing premise.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Sounds very weird, but I'm going to read it next month, Michael. Going to review it next month. Okay, so hello all. Then we got Super Strange Shadow. Hi, highlight of the week.
Oh,
Thanks for keeping me in company while Mommy's at hospital. I'm so sorry to hear about that. And so looking forward to your conversation.
oh, good luck to your mom. I hope things go
Yeah.
well.
All the best for your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we got Gareth, a book
Hey,
song, the magic.
Gareth.
Yeah. Like, how you
Good
doing?
to see you. Gareth's a good guy. He's a good man.
Gareth's an awesome guy.
I watched his New Orleans video. It's like one of my favorite videos ever.
Yeah. No, he's
I was living vicariously through Gareth going to New Orleans.
I would love to visit that city.
Me
It just
too.
sounds so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love the whole idea of the jazz and the music and the
Oh,
festivities and all that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Before we get to classic horror, because I know that's what you want to talk about as well, I actually want to show. Hey man, I've got a pile here. Yeah, I've actually got a pile here of some classic horror compilations. Although this is not classic, this is probably my favorite horror compilations, with also authors such as Stephen King, Randy Campbell. What have we got here? We got Ray Bradbury, Robert Bloch,
yes,
Joyce Carol Oates, T.E.D. Klein, Richard Matheson. But this is definitely my favorite compilation, and it's called Dark Forces.
Nice.
So I highly recommend that. But then I got some older stuff. I'm going to get to that. Sorry, I have to reach down here.
Yeah, no, I've got, no problem.
And this is stuff that's got like M.R. James, what we were talking, Algernon Blackwood.
Yes.
First, we got more great ghost stories.
Cool.
And we got.
I love anthologies, man. Honestly.
Yeah. The Penguin Book of Horror Stories.
I think I have that one somewhere. I might have that one somewhere.
I love the cover, hey? Love the cover.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I've got two Algernon Blackwoods right here.
Oh, show me.
Yeah, these I've had these for years. One doesn't have a cover, but this, and they're very cool books. Just full of his. One's called Tales of the Mysterious and Macabre, and the other one's Tales of the Uncanny and the Supernatural. Lovely, lovely books. I'm so happy to have them.
Yeah, because I actually read him last year. I read The Willows, which blew me away. Absolutely loved that story. And actually, the reason I love that story so much is that I'm an ex-field guide. I used to work at the Kruger National Park and the Kgalagadi transformation, or I can't even remember what the park's called, but it's up in kind of close to Namibia.
Really?
Worked as a guide, yeah. And this book, the book The Willows, just the personification of nature and the threat of nature around these men. I absolutely, I love that story.
It's like chilling. It's chilling, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what kind of landscape was the park that you were a field guide to? Was it like?
It's kind of you'd call it a semi-desert. So it's not full desert. It's sort of a semi-desert.
Really?
So there are times of the year when it rains, the grass comes up on the dunes.
That's
And
amazing.
the rest of the year, it's just these red dunes. And you get a lot of the cats. You get all the big cats, but you don't get elephant or rhino or creatures like that because there's not enough water. It's traditionally where you'll find the people, the Bushmen in South Africa.
Okay.
Were the original people that lived in South Africa. But I'm not going to go there because and they get political. But these people were completely wiped out. Now they're in reservations, so it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But so it's just such a beautiful park.
I would love that. I think that's amazing.
It's called the Galagadi Transfrontier Park. That's so beautiful.
You'll have to send me like a link to it or something.
Yeah.
In an email. I'd love to just. I've always wanted to visit Africa, and I don't travel much, but one of these days maybe I'd love to visit that place.
Yeah. I'll be a tour guide if you want.
Yeah. Who knows if I win the lottery this tonight?
Yeah. And look, it doesn't have as much wildlife as the Kruger. Kruger is our, I suppose, what people call that's our kind of epic park, Kruger National Park. Like so many species of animals, plants. But what I love about the Galagadi is just this desert and the feel that you have when you go there. And there's I can't remember the saying now, but the Bushmen call it like when you go to the park and you get that red sand between your toes, that you never want to leave. It goes into your spirit. You never want to leave those red sands. Really? It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
I can
see your link. I'll send you a link.
I'd love to check it out.
Yeah.
So,
and another book, Great Tales of the Supernatural.
Oh yeah.
Here we got Washington Irvine, D.H. Lawrence, Guy Masupin, they're French. I'm not sure if I'm saying it properly. Got some lovely compilations. I have to be honest, I don't read them sort of back to back. I'll dip into them every now and then for a short story. If I feel like a ghost story.
That's what I tend to do as well. Yeah. Instead of reading them like cover to cover, you just I feel like a horror, and I'll open one up and choose a couple, and they're just quick reads. They're very satisfying.
They are.
Yeah.
And sometimes quick reads are the best.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what else we got here. Okay, no, we still stuck there. That's fine. Tell us about what do you call it? Occult Detective October. I want to hear about, because you're passionate about that. You're passionate about occult detectives, right?
Well, I mean, I definitely. I mean, I'm really enjoying the event, and when I started last year, it was like the first event that I was involved in, because I started in September 15th, mid-September. So it was kind of too late to get into Sumerian September. So the first one I did was Occult Detective October. And I love it. I mean, it's such a rich genre, really. I mean, it's kind of a subgenre, but there's so much out there, and you really don't know until you start delving into the history of it. Like occult detectives have been around since like the early 1800s, and that was a big thing back in the Victorian era, was that kind of thing, these detectives investigating the supernatural, because they loved the supernatural back in the Victorian times. They were all about, seances and ghosts and spirituality and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I've been enjoying it.
I mean, you can even go with Sherlock Holmes. I mean,
you'll probably hear me talk about Sherlock Holmes a lot. Because
Basketballs is a great one.
Like I mentioned that in one video, and I said it's almost, there's nothing supernatural about it, in the end, really, but it's got that vibe to it, and there's always that question at the beginning of the story: is this a supernatural being? And it's almost, I would call it an occult detective story.
Yeah, Yeah.
You know.
And what are you reading? Actually, I shouldn't be asking you that because you got a huge pile.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this is
yeah. Go on.
This is the one I'm reading right now. I'm almost done this actually.
Yeah.
The Cthulhu Casebooks. There's 4 of these in the series, and it's Holmes and Watson go up against Lovecraftian horrors, and this is the Highgate horrors, and I'm really enjoying this book, man. There's like I said, there's some pretty horrific elements to this. Like I said, the fungus, this alien fungus that has come to Earth, on a spaceship, and there's a cabal of these humans that are working for the Migo, these aliens that are on this planet in our outer solar system. But I told you about the corpses that have the fungus that is keeping them alive, and it's almost like parasitic, right? And even Holmes in one chapter, he puts this parasitic fungus into his ear so that he can eavesdrop on its mother fungus, and it's very disturbing stuff, but it's really, really good, really well written. Like James Lovegrove, he'll do straight Sherlock Holmes adventures as well, but then he does these supernatural kind of ones, and he's a really good writer. I'm really enjoying it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I still need to pick up. This is going to be one of 2. I want to read a John Silence book, a short story.
Yeah.
And I also want to read Every Dead Thing by John Connolly.
John Connolly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never read John Connolly.
Yeah. This has got a detective, Charlie Parker. This is part of a long series. And his family is brutally murdered at the beginning. His wife and his young daughter. And he ends up after this killer, but there's all sorts of supernatural stuff involved.
Yeah.
And as I said, this is a part of a long series. And I actually checked with MJ. This is most definitely Occult Detective. Yeah.
Okay, good. I hear nothing but good things about John Connolly, but I've never read him, so that's one thing I'm gonna have to check out. The thing is, with people like you and I, readers, there's always more to be read. There's always writers out there you'll never get to because you have too many other things going on, but there's always something to read,
Yeah. I think that's a problem, though, with labeling your channel as horror, right?
Yeah.
Although, if you think about it, Cliff's Dark Gems doesn't have to be just horror. I'm more into the kind of dark stuff. But that could be Sherlock Holmes. That could be the book you just showed me. I'm kind of intrigued by that.
I prefer darker elements to my fiction, whether it's mystery or fantasy. Like I don't read light stuff. I'm not going to read comedy or light YA stuff around nowadays. I like dark elements to my fiction, right? And I've got the same problem. My channel's called Mystery and Mayhem, and I was going to focus on mystery. Yeah, the mayhem could be that different stuff. So yeah, but I hear you.
Yeah. So you got to you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into one genre.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, when I grew up as a teenager, I did read a lot of horror, but I also read a lot of fantasy. This kind of epic fantasy, long fantasy series. That was my passion as well. I mean, I loved it. I loved Stephen King and all of that. And then when I made this channel 2 years ago, it's coming up to 2 years, sort of December, the end of December.
Nice. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. And then, I need to read some other stuff as well. And to be honest with you, one series that I've been reading, but I haven't picked it up for a while, and I kind of inherited the series. I think it's about 40 books plus that I own. And this is Ollie's favorite series. And that is Ed McBain. So this one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love Ed McBain.
87. Yeah, 87. And I own, I think it's about 40 of these books because the owner of this house, when we bought the house, just said, no, you can have all of them.
Really?
I've got like the Penguin editions of like all of these books.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've got book 6 or 7, and I said I was going to read more, but I just wasn't in the mood for crime or mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them get pretty dark. Yeah, the 87th. Some of them are very lighthearted and humorous, but others, he goes to some dark places in that series. That's a really good series to get into. I love Ed McBain. Those are great books. And I haven't read them all, but I've read quite a few of them.
Yeah, I've only read 6 or 7 of them, but I'm doing it in order now because I've got pretty much the entire series, I think.
Wow.
Maybe there's a couple missing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a bookcase here with most of them. But yeah, I actually want to pick it up again because I've heard only good things, particularly from me as well, because he loves
and
it. Yeah.
You and Criminali will have something to talk about because that's his favorite writer, Ed McBain.
Yeah. Okay, and then another thing. We got here an old Lovecraft, The Tomb.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, I love this cover.
Yeah.
I'd love to get hold of more Lovecraft, like physical copies. And then Edgar Allan Poe. This is the only book that I've got by Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, really?
Also, actually, yeah. And I've seen such beautiful books. But yeah.
I'll show you. I'll show you the one I have. I love this book. I've got a hardcover, The Complete Stories and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe, and I love this. I've showed this on my channel before. You know, it's just a beautiful book, and this is all I need for Edgar Allan Poe. Is this book. And I first read him in high school, like the Cask of Amontillado and The Pit and the Pendulum, and the Fall of the House of Usher and all that. And I remember reading them in high school, and just like Edgar Allan Poe just blew my mind as a kid in high school, you know. And they'll always be a great love of mine. Is his stories. They're fantastic.
Yeah, we actually studied The Black Cat at school.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I actually want to give you a couple of book recommendations.
Okay.
Have you read any Joe R. Lansdale?
I have. I do know Joe R. Lansdale. Yeah.
Okay. What have you read by him?
Oh, some short stories.
Okay.
You know, there's some short stories that he's written. I know he's a comic book writer too. Right.
He's almost a genre unto himself, isn't he? He's got a little bit of it.
Yeah. And that's the way you want to be if you're a writer. Just kind of do your own thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Savage Season.
Nice.
And this is, I think, the first of a series, or maybe not. Might be another book I'm thinking of. The Happen Leonard. I don't know if this is Happen Leonard #1, or this might be a completely different book. I'm not sure. No, this is a different one. But there's a series called Happen Leonard.
Yeah.
2 characters.
I know I've never read that series, but I have to pick some of them up because I hear good things about them.
Yeah. And also, this is this is more horror, but a book that I absolutely loved by him was a Drive-In. And then I've got the Drive-In Part 2 as well, but the Drive-In is dark, and it's hilariously darkly funny, you know. So it's black humor, and it's very gruesome, not for the faint. But I really enjoyed that. I recommend that one, the Drive-In.
Yeah, I enjoy his writing, so I'd keep an eye out for that one for sure.
Yeah, it's got like a Southern Texas kind of writing style. It's just absolutely.
Yeah, he grew up in Texas, right? Like he's like Robert E. Howard's kind of area, didn't he? Yeah.
I think so. I just want to check here. We got some more people. No, we got some more comments. Come on, guys, you're going to join in the show here. We've got Jim. What are you drawing at the moment?
Oh, I have things I have to do. I have I have to do a painting for my son for their that they got married, and I'm a year late getting them their wedding present. So I'm not doing a lot of drawing right now, but I am actually working on a logo for February's reading event. Homes is where the heart is, and I'm trying to come up with a decent logo for like a T-shirt design, and that's currently what I'm working on right now. And, I'm always sketching in my sketchbooks and stuff like that, too. I do mostly like figure drawing and that kind of thing. So, yeah, thanks for asking, Gareth. I'm always up to something.
Okay, then we got, what is the ultimate Halloween book? Need some inspiration for the best time of the year. Okay, well, yeah, I would say my ultimate Halloween book, but it is Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury.
Oh.
I can't go past that, but I'm reading a lot of Halloween books this year. And I have heard another book called something about Autumn Harvest or Dark Harvest that I want to read next year. I just hear such good things about it.
And who does, is that Ray Bradbury too?
So that, no. Norman Partridge, I think it is.
Oh, Something Wicked This Way Comes was an awesome book. I love that book. But again, it was like I was a kid when I read that. I have to reread it one of these days.
Yeah,
I would suggest there's one book that I always recommend by Mark Frost. He was a TV writer, but he wrote The List of Seven, and it's got the main character is Arthur Conan Doyle, and a character that is called Jack Sparks, which is kind of an inspiration from Sherlock Holmes, but it's a horror novel. And it's really, really well done. It's like one of my favorite books ever is The List of Seven by Mark Frost. And there's some really scary, disturbing scenes in there. So anybody out there who wants a good read, keep an eye out for that book.
List of Seven.
The List of Seven. And he did a follow-up to it called The Six Messiahs, which wasn't as good, but it was still good. But it's got some good horror elements in those books.
Then we go to here. Don't worry about your name. I keep talking biscuits, and that ain't in my name.
I didn't bring biscuits this time, Gareth. This is a different channel, so no biscuits here with Cliff.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk about crochet and stuff in my channel. Don't worry about the name yet. But your name is pretty much open to anything. Books, songs, and other magic. Anything.
That's a good name. Yeah, he's got a good channel name for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about your story into Garbology. I thought that was a phenomenal collection.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And your story called something Sentry?
The Decaying Sentry.
Yeah, very haunting. Fun at parts were very terrifying, atmospheric. And I know that on your channel you did a read. You actually read that aloud.
Yeah.
People that are watching, you should go check that out.
Well, Troy, the editor of the anthology, he kind of sent out an email, and he kind of asked everybody who has a BookTube channel and they got a story published in the anthology. He said, well, what he wants to do is get everybody to narrate their story on their channel, and then he was going to kind of put together kind of a audio book. And I don't really know if anybody else did it, to be honest.
Yeah,
that's why I decided to narrate it on my channel, was because Troy asked us to do that.
Yeah,
but I thought it was a cool idea too. So
yeah. And where did you come up with the idea for that story? So it was like a haunted town.
Well,
I remember the warehouse or the
a lot of that's autobiographical. Like that's a real town, and that's the way I described the town. That's all real, but the supernatural element, I was inspired by your Fritz Leiber story, and I read that story in two parts in Fantasy and Science Fiction magazine. I've got it up here, called The Pale Brown Thing, and it was reissued into a book, but I forget the title of the of the book itself. I'm going to have to look it up. But it was kind of to a certain extent inspired by that, about the, all the emotions and hate and anger and that kind of thing, of a whole bunch of people can create this kind of creature, this elemental or paramental it was called. And that's kind of where I got that idea from.
Yeah, I kind of gave it a bit of a reread today. That's what you call paramental, so that all the anger aimed towards it just made it worse. Basically.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad.
Warehouse and it was so atmospheric. I love the story.
Thank you. No, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
It was almost like purging. Like I said, it was autobiographical, and it came out so easily, that story.
Yeah, I actually need to try and write a story, but it's.
I've got 2 or 3 on the go.
That's.
I'm bad for not finishing things,
Yeah. Well, that's something I just need to finish because. Well, I'm only. If it's a short story, I should be able to finish something, and then work with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got this idea in a story about. It's not really giving anything away because I don't have a story, but this idea of I don't know if you've heard of there's a movie out called Triangle.
Yes, I know the one.
And about somebody trying to push a boulder up a hill and then it just rolls back down and they start again.
Triangle, like you're talking about the one that took place on the ship.
Yes.
That's the one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. And so every time she picks up, she kind of has to relive.
Yeah.
So I've got a story like that in my head. But I'm not going to say anything more but that's the kind of concept that I really like. And I love that movie. I found that movie just terrifying.
Me too. I love that movie. So how far have you gotten in the story, or have you started it yet?
Yeah, no, I've got about maybe 20-30 pages of writing in a book, like a book like this. Like a book like this. So that's not.
Yeah.
I just don't know where to go. I'm stuck. And I've had this conversation with someone on my show before, and they said you just got to push on through. Even if it's terrible, you've got something to work with. And then
that was going to be my advice: just do it. Just sit down and write. It doesn't matter. Where it goes. You just have to do it. You just have to sit down and just start writing and just get past that point. Just do it. Sit down every day and write something. Whether you think it's garbage or not, it just carries the story forward. And then you can always come back in and fix things up after the fact, because it's not going to be publishable the first time, right?
Well, I want my story to be garbage. I want it to be garbage. I want it to put it into garbage kind of thing.
The good garbage. The good garbage. Yeah. I wrote a novella. There was a contest for Black Orchid novella contest, and it was through Alfred Hitchcock Mystery Magazine. And they said, okay, you've got to write a novella length story that is kind of along the lines of a Nero Wolfe kind of story. So I was determined, okay, I'm going to write this story. And I just sat down every day and I just knocked off this 17,000 word novella, and it worked out really well. I mean, I was so proud of myself that I got it done, and it's kind of, I like the fact that I didn't necessarily have it planned out. I had certain things I wanted to do in it, but I just kind of let it unfold as I wrote it,
Yeah.
And then if something didn't make sense, then you kind of work it out. But it was that was kind of a big deal for me, was to get that done and get it sent in. It didn't win, but
it doesn't matter.
I was happy to get it done and get it sent in.
Yeah.
And I want to fix it up a little bit more, and I maybe want to expand on it, and maybe publish it as an Amazon book, through Amazon, publish it myself. I'd like to do that. That's a goal.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
You're going to move to one other thing now, because I actually saw on your channel, kind of going through the history of your videos.
Yeah.
That you took part in Horror Mayhem.
Yeah.
And one of the books you read, as far as I can remember, I watched that video.
Mm-hmm.
Was Dan Simmons' The Terror.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Now this was my book for 2023. This was my best book for last year.
Yeah.
I thought this book was just harrowing, so powerful, such a good book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you read anything else by the author?
Well, that's the first thing I read from Dan Simmons, but since then I've read I don't know where they are now, they're on my other shelf, but he's a very prolific author. He writes in all kinds of different genres, and he wrote he wrote he wrote a couple PI novels, series. Now the name of the character escapes me right now, but I really love those private eye novels he wrote. He's really, really good, and The Terror was brilliant. I mean, it was so atmospheric, and like I said, just chilling. Knowing what these men went through, and I think he portrayed that really well in that novel.
Yeah, like marching through the ice and snow.
Oh my God!
Starving, diseased. And the length they go to towards the end of the novel to survive. Not going to give any spoilers away, but it was just harrowing.
And the fact that all their canned goods just went bad because of faulty manufacturing practices of the day. Just awful, man.
Yeah, and also some of the men were just despicable. It's this one character I remember. It's a long time since I've read the book, obviously, but I remember this one character who's an absolute villain.
Yeah,
and he just turns people.
I forget his name, but I mean, how many people do we know like that in real life?
Exactly.
There's people. If there was a situation like that, they would just stir things up. They would. Not necessarily specifically for evil purposes, but like nobody thinks they're the villain, right? Everybody thinks that what they do is for the right reason, but it turns out to be bad decisions. And but I know the character you're talking about. I just forget his name offhand. But despicable.
Despicable, but it was just such a human story. I mean, it's a human story, and the characters. It's kind of, you had to be really patient at the beginning. People that don't like it, once again, they don't like long books, whatever. But you have to be patient, because you with the different points of view and learning about the history. And there's a lot of detail, a lot of attention to detail in that book,
which I appreciate. And it pulled me in. It didn't lose me at all as I was reading it. It just kept me wanting to read and turning the page, and that's a good thing. That's an important thing in any long book. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, I want to quickly look and see if we've got other comments. Got a couple more here. There's Pat.
Hey. Hi, Pat. Thank you.
Jim Story and Gobology.
I thought that was such a cool thing. It was such amazing to have that published in that book.
I was upset that it's not that I missed the deadline. I just didn't write the story. I started it and I want to finish it.
Well,
audiobooks professionally. He's such a great reader. Got the voice.
People keep telling me that. I should do that. I should try that. I just don't know how to go about doing it. Thank you, Ben.
Okay. Sorry, let's do that again. This June, I read some of Lansdale's Reverend Shabidia. Hi, stories, they were fun. Okay, I haven't read that. I really want to read more Joe R. Lansdale. I love his writing voice. It's so completely unique. And I love the way, and there's always a kind of a humor, but also a menace. I just love the way he writes. And I know there's a couple of books I got back there that I really want to read. I think one of his more serious books, I can't remember what it's called.
He wrote a Tarzan book. That's right. That's where I first read of him. Yeah, Joe R. Lansdale.
He wrote a Tarzan book.
Yeah, it's right here, I do believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Tarzan the Lost Adventure.
Oh, wow.
It was started by Burroughs. I think it was like an outline or something like that, and Joe R. Lansdale finished it. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've read a couple of his short stories, I'm pretty sure, in other anthologies too. But I'm going to have to pick up more of him because I really like him. Yeah.
I think my favorite short story of his, but it's a longer short story. I don't think it's quite a novella length, but it's quite a long name. On the Far Side of the Cadillac Desert with Dead Folk.
Huh. A horror novel.
And it's a short story. Sort of novella, short story novella.
Okay.
And it is, it's pretty horrific, but also kind of funny. if you my kind of person, it's very, very, very funny. But in a very dark way. You don't want to really. You don't know what. You find yourself laughing at some of the stuff, but
that's the appeal of horror. Like good horror is you're gonna laugh at something. If you've got a dark sense of humor, you have to have something to lighten it as well, too, right?
Yeah.
So the good horror stories and movies, that there are humorous parts to them, even though something horrific might be happening. You can find something humorous in it.
Yeah, well, in this particular story, it's about a bounty hunter who's basically chasing a pedophilic killer, and has to take him to justice. This town, it's in a post-apocalyptic world. Across the desert but far side of the Cadillac Desert. The desert has these buried Cadillacs, and the zombies have been kind of now turned into entertainment. And
I like it already.
He chases this guy into this club with pole dancing zombies. Their hands have been cut off, so they can't grasp, and they're muzzled.
Yeah.
So they're pole dancing zombies. And if you want to get a bit more kinky, you can pay a little bit extra. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. So it's so sick. It's so disgusting. And then, he captures a guy and he has to take it. Now, I won't say anything more because it's a spoiler.
Where did this story appear?
I think there's something called it's in a compilation called Something Hands. But I don't know. I read it from a book that I've got in my Kindle called The Massive Book of Zombies.
Okay.
I've got a soft spot for zombies.
I do too. I got some zombie books on my shelf too. And anything post-apocalyptic, I'm a fan of too. Well,
you must look up this story. I'd love to know what you think about it.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, and it goes to very weird places. I mean, that's not the weirdest. It goes to strange places.
Yeah,
gun-toting nuns, and I think you'll like it. It's got a bit of a Western weird feel as well. Yeah,
I think I'd like it.
Yeah.
I should show you some of my paperbacks anthologies that I have here. I'm going to show some of these to you. These are just old mass market paperbacks, like horror anthologies, and I love these, and I pick them up whenever I can. I'll just go through them. Beware the Beasts. It's an old beat-up paperback, but I mean, these have great stories in them. It's got stories by Rudyard Kipling, Bram Stoker, Edgar Allan Poe, Algernon Blackwood, H.G. Wells, H.P. Lovecraft, and that's where I first was introduced to a lot of these authors, was in these old paperbacks. Here's Beware More Beasts.
Nice.
Yeah. fiends and creatures. I've got all kinds of these things, and they're just nice for a quick read. Harvest of Fear. I mean, look at this cover.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
yeah, good. That looks like a good Halloween read.
It's got what has it got in here? The Forest Warden by E.T.A. Hoffman. Let's see. Hold on. They're so dry. Shulkin the Painter by Sheridan Le Fanu. There's a Seabury Quinn story in here. H.P. Lovecraft, The Horror of Red Hook.
Oh, yeah, that's a nasty story. That's got a bit of a reputation, that one.
I read it. I kind of forget it now, but yeah.
Yeah.
Christopher Lee.
Oh, wow.
He was the apparent editor of this, but I'd like to think he had a hand in choosing them, and that's from the Archives of Evil. And here's a nice thick paperback, Beyond the Curtains of Dark.
Ooh, love that.
Yeah, look at that cover. That's very cool, eh?
Yeah.
And edited by Peter Haining, and he's a well-known anthologist, that guy. But lots of stories in that. Couple more. Look at this cover.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Yeah.
Fritz Leiber, Robert Bloch, August Derleth.
Yeah. I read a very dark Robert Bloch short story once.
He was great. I loved Robert Bloch. Richard Matheson, Robert Bloch, Ray Bradbury, just awesome authors, And these are the best way to read them, I think. Just in these short anthologies, just great.
I read a Robert Bloch short story. I can't remember from what anthology, but it was about this couple have an affair, and this guy, and something about Christmas. Don't know if that rings a bell. I can't really say anything else because all I remember is the twist at the end.
Yeah,
it's dark.
Sometimes it's only bits and pieces that you recall from the story. See, I usually, I don't have, when I read a story, I don't remember a lot of it. Like a lot of it, I'll forget it like a week later. Which is good because then when you reread the story, it's like rereading it for the first time all over again.
Exactly.
But there's always little elements that stick in your mind. And as a writer, I guess that's what you want. Like you write a good scene, and if that sticks in a person's mind, well, then you've done your job. Okay,
what's this one? The Zombies in the Wild West. Yeah, talking about on the far side of the Cadillac Desert with dead folk.
That's cool.
I love that story. You have to read that story.
It's funny because one story idea I had in mind for the Garbology was that it had time travel and zombies, and it involved the Wild West. It was gonna be a whole thing, but I said no, that's just gonna be too convoluted to do. So I might do it for this next one that's coming next year.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you see, my short story. One of the reasons why I'm stuck. Because for the first part of the story, you have this man who's crawling through the desert, it's cut and bleeding, and I'm trying to create some humor as well. That things are slapping him and going into his mouth and whatever. He has to call up on this tune, and there's a figure waiting for him. And then from there, he has to go into this sort of a cave. But I remember I sort of told you what I want the story to be about.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read the Dark Tower series.
I had read the first three.
Okay.
The first three of them.
So then I'm not going to say anything more. But I actually can't. I just have to write it. That's all. I really just have to.
I don't know if you look for inspiration in other authors, but that beginning scene where you're talking about the guy crawling through the desert, you might, taking it to Westerns, you might want to read Louis L'Amour. There's a couple novels he had that took place in the desert, and about desert survival and what the character went through to survive in the desert. Like it might be worth reading that just to get a little inspiration to get over that hump, you know?
Yeah, because I did read Louis L'Amour for
June on the Range.
Michael K. Vaughan. I read the Haunted Mesa.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I didn't care for it that much.
No, that's not. I mean, if you're going to start with a Louis L'Amour novel, that's not the best one to start with. That was him experimenting. You know, he was experimenting with existential and ghosts and supernatural stuff in a Western kind of environment. But that's not what he normally wrote. That was an experiment for him.
Yeah.
For something, you know, to inspire your story, you might want to go to. I'm trying to think what would be a good example. He wrote so many. Like I have most of them. I think I'm only missing about 6 or 7 of the books that he wrote. But you want to stick to the formulaic westerns that he wrote, you know, and then the Haunted Mesa and Lonesome Gods. That's something you want to kind of get into after you've read some of his regular stuff, you know.
Okay.
But
I'll bear that in mind. But remember, the reason I chose the Haunted Mesa is because it's a horror channel.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was trying to be clever. I was trying to take part in an event, a Western event, and kind of incorporate that into my channel. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
But I will try something else. Yeah.
He was great for description and narrative. You know, like he really, you know, crawling through the desert and trying to survive and looking for the next water hole and that kind of thing. He was very good at that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Pat says, just finished Margaret Atwood's Oryx and Crake. That's post-apocalyptic for sure. Okay.
I think my wife has that on her shelf.
Okay. Have you got that?
My wife has it on her shelf. I've read The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
Which could be regarded as post-apocalyptic. It's like a sci-fi kind of thing, but it's pretty harsh.
Okay, yeah. No, I need to read. I think that's probably my favorite subgenre of horror. That's because I love The Stand, and my favorite book of all time is Swan Song by Robert
McCammon, yeah. I've got that on my shelf. I haven't read it yet.
Ooh, put down everything you're reading and pick it up. Put down everything you're reading right now. Put down everything that you plan to read this month and read Swan.
Okay. Good to know.
Have you read Boy's Life?
I have a Boy's Life. I've read Night Boat, and I've got The Wolf's Hour, and I've got A Boy's Life and Swan Song on my shelf, but I haven't read a lot of McCammon, just a couple things.
Yeah, Swan Song is the best book ever written.
Really?
Over 1,000 pages. I flew through it in 2.5 days.
Really?
Because I was on holiday. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to sleep.
Is that right? That's saying a lot.
Fell in love with that book. And then I gave it to my wife. And then she didn't want to talk to me either. She finished it in 3-4 days. Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a testament.
It is. It is an incredible book. And then Boy's Life is probably in my top 5 as well.
Really?
Incredible coming of age story. So either one of those you should read soon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to.
Yeah, you must highly recommend it. Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's just check if there's some other comments. Okay, we've got Gareth says, reading in general can sometimes spark a thought for a way to finish a story from any author.
Definitely. Yeah. It's a good
way
to gain inspiration.
Yeah, I think my problem is I'm trying to make the transition from the desert to something else.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get too weird too quickly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when I'm trying to write, it sounds like it's jarring, whereas there needs to be more of a sense of where am I going with this? What am I going to do? You kind of walk into the cave and something's completely weird and wacky and transformed. And
yeah, I read somewhere sometimes the hardest thing to do is get your character out of a room. You know,
yeah,
you just
that's
a simple thing like that. It's a transition, and that's the hardest thing to do. It's
well,
just
that's
okay.
what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got 1,000 pages in 2 days. That's honestly nuts. Well, yeah, I did. It was 2.5 days, and I stopped for when my wife made me something to eat. We were on the beach, so I think I swam once to have a quick in the water. And the rest of the time, yeah, I just said, "Baby, you just do your thing. I'm reading right now."
I love books like that, and I've read books like that where you just can't put it down, and you just you fly right through it.
Yeah,
it's so immersive; it just pulls you in.
I don't think I've ever been immersed in a book like that ever. Yeah, well, it's my number one book. I still remember. I remember all the characters, the heroes and the villains, and everything.
Yeah,
and you enjoyed The Stand, right?
Loved it.
Yeah, this was way better for me. And The Stand is in my top 3 books of all time.
Really?
This book, and a lot of people put hate on the book because it's so similar to The Stand, but it's not. The Stand is a virus, right? It wipes out humanity. This is a nuclear war. The landscape is completely altered. Different characters, different story. It's just so powerful. It's such a good book.
Yeah.
Such a good book. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So put down everything right now.
Yeah. So much to read. So much to read.
So much. And so little. Yeah. Okay, Jim, that was awesome. Let me see. Still got that 1,000 pages in 2 days. It's actually very possible because you can read 200 pages very easily in a day.
Yeah.
Even when you're working, you can come home at night. So if you are on holiday, it's very, very, very possible, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. If you read, like when I read The Terror, I just flew through that because I didn't put it down. Maybe I read it. I think I started it on a Friday, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I read it all day Saturday and I was finished like Sunday. And it's a big book.
Yeah, it's close to 1,000. It's about the same length.
And then other books that are only a couple hundred pages, it takes you forever to read because it doesn't engage you, and you're not picking it up all the time and reading it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like with The Terror, when it engaged me the whole way through, but I think it was the last 200 pages, something, 300 pages. I literally couldn't go to sleep. I stayed up till 4 a.m. till I finished the book.
Yeah.
So my wife was in bed. I stayed up and read that book until 4 a.m, 5 a.m. I could not put it down. I had to finish it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes books just do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually, like I'll read before I go to sleep at night, and some books you fall asleep right away, but other books you want to finish it before you go to sleep, and then you're awake till God knows when because you got to get through that book. And I think we all know that feeling.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that feeling. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but this has been an awesome chat.
Yeah. I thank you for inviting me. What are you reading right now, Cliff?
What am I reading right now? I'm reading a book called Rotten Tommy by David Sodergren, and that's the author I recommend. A couple of his books have been 5 stars for me. The Heart, very good. And then Maggie's Grave, like a folk horror. Very, very good.
I saw you hold up Scary Stories We Tell in the Dark.
Yeah.
In your last video. I didn't read the book looked really good, but the movie I didn't care for too much. I don't know if you saw the adaptation.
I didn't see the adaptation, but the book is very simplistic because it's aimed at middle grade kind of learners.
That explains it.
Not exactly kind of high learning, high reading.
Okay.
And the stories are very short. And it's almost like stories that are meant to be read around a campfire with small kids.
Okay.
but what makes the whole thing is the illustrations. It's not cool.
They looked awesome. That explains the movie, though, because watching the movie, I thought it was like a Goosebumps episode. It was for kids, So you telling me that now about the book explains why they did the movie that way, but I'm sure the book's 10 times better than the movie was.
Yeah, but it's a middle grade book. So, although, the stories are pretty terrifying.
Creepy drawings. Creepy drawings for a middle grade book for kids. There were pretty disturbing drawings in that book.
Yeah, but it was almost like that's why I went into the whole banned thing. You have this overprotective. It was the most banned book of the 90s. Yeah, and but you get these. In my mind, you get these parents that are incredibly overprotective.
Yeah,
want to kind of put a blanket over their child and protect them from everything, and not let them kind of live it and experience that. They don't trust their kid enough to be able to deal with dark stuff.
Yeah.
So
you have to put yourself, like, you remember what it was like when you were a kid, when you first started reading. I don't know about you, but I just read everything. I absorbed everything. And I would have been a little frustrated and kind of pissed off if somebody had told me that, oh, you can't read that.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing. You just let a kid at that age read what they want to read.
Yeah, and if it scares the hell out of them, so be it. But basically, this is saying, we don't trust you. We want to protect you. So it's like kind of putting a blanket around a child or over a child's head and saying, no, we're going to protect you from the darkness.
Yeah,
we're going to protect you from the world. But not giving enough credit for the child to actually be able to face those challenges, even if it's a young. And the whole point as well is that they're going to find a way to read the book. They're going to find a copy somewhere. They're going to go to a friend who's got a copy. So some parents are just smothering.
See, my mom was good for that, because when I was I must have been 13 or 14. That's when I was doing all this. She passed me a copy of the Amityville Horror by Jay Anson, and of course, now I know that it was all, fake and, a manufactured story. But at the time when I read it, I thought it was a true story, and it terrified me. But, it was to her, good for her that she gave that book to me and allowed me to read that book.
Exactly. That was a good thing. Yeah. I mean, I read it when I was 13.
Yeah.
And it was the first real horror novel that I read. That was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where does it lay in your what best or worst of King?
The Stand, It, The Shining.
Okay.
But for the rest, you're gonna have to watch my top 20 video.
Yeah, I got to do one of those videos one of these days. I've never done a Stephen King video. And I've held off on that for some reason, because I know as soon as they do a Stephen King video that I'm going to get subscribers and a whole bunch of likes, because it's Stephen King. Any Stephen King video, you're going to get people watching and people subscribing. And I've been avoiding that.
Not necessarily, because sometimes people get a bit kinged out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it could be.
A lot of people are doing the same kind of video.
That's it. Like, I see everybody doing Stephen King, so I've been kind of avoiding doing Stephen King. I'll stay away from that because everybody's doing Stephen King.
But the fact that you have not been doing Stephen King, and then if you bring in a Stephen King video, that might explode, because this is Mystery and Mayhem talks King, which you've never done before. Then so people that are subscribed to your channel, well, oh wow, this guy reads King as well.
Could be. It could be. You never know what's going to take off or what's going to do bad.
Yeah. I mean, amazing thing is the third video that I ever did when I started my channel. I did the BookTube newbie tag. I can't remember the second video. And then the third video I did was my top 10 horror novels of all time. And that's got over, I can't remember, thousands and thousands of views,
Really?
hundreds and hundreds of likes, yeah. And that was when I started, when my lighting is probably as bad as it is now. And kind of the lighting and the sound is bad, and you're thinking, how is this so popular? It's just, yeah.
What they say, it's like anything I've seen about YouTube. Do a top 10 video, and people, that's what people watch. They're gonna tune into a top 10 or a top 20, right?
Yeah.
Or the best of. It's that clickbaity thing, right?
Yeah. I tend to do something like that maybe once or twice a month, and it always does well.
Yeah.
But the problem is you can't do it. You're going to run out of ideas. You have to change things up.
Yeah.
With my channel, with the future, you have to think of different ideas of what you can do with your videos and how often. Yeah.
I have trouble. I mean, I'm not good at booktube. I know what I have to do. I have to be more consistent with what I post. Like I want to do consistent thumbnails. Like your thumbnails are good because as soon as you see your thumbnail, it's one of your videos. And my thumbnails are all over the place, man. They're not consistent. I don't post consistently, and I know I need to do these things, and I'm just bad for not doing it. I really have to clamp down and do these things.
Yeah, but I think it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
If you've got a really busy life, it's not so easy to just, you have to work and you have to earn a living. It's not so easy.
I've got time on my hands to do it, but it's coming up with the ideas too. Like usually, like I don't plan things out. I'll say, oh, I'm going to do a video on that. It'll pop into my mind, and then I'll run in here and I'll do it. And it's just kind of off the cuff a lot of the times, and I think I have to plan things more, better.
I've actually got a book where I write every idea that I ever have, or even looking at other people's videos or watching. I just write everything down.
Yeah.
So I've got a list I've got a book of ideas. But then, you just have to kind of bring it in. Top 10 lists. I just recently did reading 1-star reviews from my 5-star books. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
Just bring in different things all the time so people.
Book hauls always do really well.
Yeah.
Probably the best videos for viewers I have is a book haul video, because everybody likes to see a book haul.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would suggest the top 10 Stephen King.
Yeah.
I mean, how much of King have you read?
Oh, a lot. Not as much as you. Maybe 30 or 40.
Okay.
Like a lot of anthologies.
Yeah. Maybe do a top 10 novels and then your favorite anthologies, ranking your favorite anthologies.
Yeah.
So space it out a bit. So 1 week just do like the top 10 Stephen King novels.
Yeah.
And then the next week do best anthologies.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could do that a top 10 with Sherlock Holmes. Some of your other favorite authors. You focus on the authors that you really love, and you do a top 10 of these works. Top 10 of this, giving you some ideas. Giving you some ideas.
Yeah, I should be writing this down. Yeah, I've got to do that. Yeah, for sure. I should be doing a top 10, and I love Sherlock Holmes, so I could do that easily.
Do that. Yeah.
Like I know Michael K. Vaughan, he loves Sherlock Holmes, but he doesn't read a lot of the pastiches. But I love the Sherlock Holmes pastiches, whether it's a supernatural one or just a straight Sherlock Holmes story. I mean, I think they're great. The more Sherlock Holmes, the better.
Hey, man, that really was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Run out of comments here, but people are still watching us. We're going to hang out a little bit afterwards. Just hang out for 2 minutes afterwards.
Yeah.
We're going to say thank you to everyone for turning up. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Al.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
yeah, it's always fun. We're gonna have to do it again sometime, maybe on your channel.
Yeah, I've got to do more of these myself. Yeah.
No, fun. Yeah. Okay, everyone. So take care.
Thanks for having me, Cliff.
Thanks, absolute pleasure. Okay, we're gonna do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.